Hello,
Hello.
Hello.
and welcome everybody to the first episode of the Leaders Corner hosted by me, Allison.
And me, Renee from Leaders Fluent. This is where we delve into the world of business, leadership, and entrepreneurship.
Today, we are absolutely honored to be joined by Mehul Adlakha, the founder of Vibn Vintage. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Mehul Adlakha. I go to Wilfrid Laurier University. I'm a fourth year BBA student. I'm currently specializing in marketing and doing a minor in econ. Obviously, I'm on this podcast because I have an entrepreneurial itch. I've always had one for as long as I can remember. I worked for a few startups in first year, second year, and that's where I really found my passion for entrepreneurship. Um, so yeah, I don't want to bore too many people with like too much about me, but that's kind of the overview of myself.
That's awesome. Yeah, and also just you could tell us a little bit about your business and who you are, what your mission is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run an online vintage clothing retail store. It goes by the name Vibn Vintage. I'll quickly give my social medias here. So at VIBN, just four letters on Instagram and Twitter, and then VIBN Vintage on Facebook and TikTok. I'm still working on it though, but hopefully that's up soon. So basically, I sell branded vintage clothing from the 70s and 80s all the way to like new age clothing to like the early 2000s. And like our mission is to like, I know a lot of people say this, but like my personal mission is to turn this into a lifestyle brand because I see that's where everything's kind of going in terms of fashion. And hopefully have a like I know it'll have a massive impact on the environment, but hopefully as on people as well, millions of people as well. And yeah, just to give you guys like a quick like fact, one t-shirt when you buy from any fast fashion store, I'm not going to name drop, but any fast fashion store, just one t-shirt takes like 2,700 liters. I think 2,700, I think it's 2,600, but 2,700 liters of water just to make one t-shirt, and then that's mass produced. So like, you don't have to like care too much about it, but just like listening to that, and that's enough water for one person like for 900 days, like so that's just one t-shirt. And then when you mass produce that, that's obviously like not a sustainable thing. So so that also ties back into the whole sustainability thing. That's kind of what really, because initially when I started, it wasn't really about this. I just had a passion for vintage clothing, but and then slowly when I found these facts, I was like, yeah, this is definitely like, this is my mission now. So that's when I kind of developed my mission statement and stuff like that. And then in terms of like, values and stuff like that about my business. So we really push innovation. That's kind of what drives my business personally. Like this is what I think. I think innovation is what really drives business, because anyone or a lot of people can sell like vintage clothes and stuff like that. But what really makes you different is like the innovation part. We're working on like a lot of projects, a lot of cool things. I can't talk about everything right now, but a lot of innovative stuff with the website, not just clothing, but like website, the features we'll have. So that's something that's coming up soon. We're also very customer focused. That's what really allows me to do what I love to do, right? It's the customers that really purchase the product and help the environment while doing so. So I definitely try to make sure I'm giving like prompt responses to customers when they have any questions. And most importantly, I try to push having fun, because that's kind of why I started. And I don't want to kind of turn like that passion into a job, right? And like kind of force myself to do this. So I try to, that's like my most important core value is having fun. So that's kind of a little bit about my business. But yeah.
That's awesome. Wow, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I definitely think that sustainable business is a rising topic. And I love how you're taking action to help change the world. Yeah. So I know you touched on this a little bit, but how and why did you choose to take your first step into starting your business?
Yeah, it's a funny story. Actually, when I was a junior in high school, I was like really addicted to this one game where you could like either train your player, or there was one side where you could flip, or like flip items. So like buy for low, sell it for high. And that's kind of what really got me interested in this whole like business thing, was because I was interested in flipping those items. So just like reading graphs, seeing what to buy, I would try to like obviously make profit, but it was really about the money. It was more so about like the experience and really understanding what items, like reading the demand for that game and what people really wanted. So that's kind of where it started, and then it kind of segued into like sophomore or third year in high school, and that's when I started really getting to like tangible stuff. So like actually, selling high end streetwear stuff. So like Supreme, Bape, Palace, and stuff like that. And I would sell that in high school, and obviously it wasn't a problem then. It wasn't really a problem then because like your parents are funding you. You don't really have to pay for school. You kind of don't have to pay for school for high school, and then yeah, so it was easy to sell it there. And then when I touched university, it was like first second year. I was still trying to like keep my passion alive, but it was just like a lot harder to sell that $100 t-shirt because obviously people were like, you don't have to spend like a lot on school. Like you could be spending a little bit on like food or whatever. Like everyone spends something, right, out of their own pocket, whether it be for clothes, for food, or textbooks. So no one wanted to buy the $100 tee. So I kind of like my passion kind of like I stopped that for a bit and just focused on university. But I was always observing my like environment, and I saw these people were wearing like a lot of vintage. I knew what vintage clothes were. I just didn't know too much about it. And I knew a lot of people were wearing that. And when I started searching all these products up, it was like $30-$40. And I was like, okay, that's a lot more affordable. And if they're selling it for $30-$40, what are they buying it for? Like, are they buying for like $10, $20, $30, whatever it was, right? And then so it was a little more sustainable for me, so I could buy a lot more clothes, and by the time I would sell that $100 t-shirt, I could sell like 5 of these $40 t-shirts or whatever it was. So that's kind of why I started. And then also in my personal life, ever since I was young, sustainability's always been around me and instilled in me. Like my parents as well, they would always like, so I have an older sibling, I have a brother, and I would get his clothes and I would never really understand it, and I would be like, I don't understand why I'm wearing his clothes, but obviously there was a reason about it. It wasn't really about the money aspect. It was more so about why like waste more resources when you don't need to. And then also like about rough paper, we would always use rough paper for like math questions, for writing stuff down. Like if one side has like print on it that's not being used, I would use the other side. So it's always like that's always been around. Using reusable water bottles like the one I have right here, it's always been like around my house. So I thought it was like a perfect mix because the sustainability thing that I grew up with, plus my love for like reselling and business, and then it was like it just tied together. That's why I started the business.
Yeah, very cool. I found it really interesting how you were able to like adopt new principles, I guess, for your business. Like when you got to university, just adapting to the target audience. That's like really great. And I'm sure like once you got to university, like you obviously wanted to continue the business eventually. And I was wondering like what were your expectations when you first started Vibn Vintage, and how did that kind of compare to like what you're having to do now for your business?
So when I was talking about like reselling streetwear and all of that, it wasn't in large quantities. So it was always just getting it and just selling it. It was not too many steps in between. So when I got into vintage, my expectations were the exact same. So just getting a little bit, selling it, and that's it. And when I really got into it, it's more than just acquire and sell. It's a lot more. It's a lot more in depth. There's a lot more steps that go in from product acquisition to like the end customer. So like you would get so just a quick example, like I would get the product. Then it goes through washing because obviously they're pre-worn and gently used clothing. So it would be washed, and then it comes back, and then inventory management was insane. Like it's so hard to like really manage this. Like when you get into like right now, it's like a nightmare because there's like thousands of products that we're rotating through like on a weekly or like in a 2 week basis. So it's like, how do you keep track of inventory, right? So my like when I started, it was very like easy going. I was like, okay, it's not a big deal. You just got to buy and sell it, but it's very labor intensive. There's like 10 steps from, like I said, from product acquisition to end customer. So I think that was something that caught me off guard, and like so that's kind of what my expectations were, and that's kind of my experience right now.
So cool. I'm sure you're a proud Laurier student. And so, kind of relating to your expectations, how do you think Laurier has supported your entrepreneurship?
So by the way, this is my personal opinion. There's a misconception out there, or not really a misconception, but like a saying that school doesn't really help you, and university doesn't really help you when it comes to entrepreneurship. and running a business. And though that could be true to an extent, but I feel like school also offers a lot of things if you can afford it. That's like really valuable. So for example, like critical thinking and time management, you know, it might not be the courses, but it could be like things like that. You know, like to develop time management skills is like really tough, especially like because right now you're put into like this really like, you know, like a high pressure situation where you're supposed to like balance all this. So I think like time management is like something that really gets developed in university. And in critical thinking skills, like, you know, when you take exams that are like 30-40%, it's like you have to really get a decent grade to pass that course. So that's like you have to really use critical thinking skills. You have to know how to like study under pressure. So I think all of those, like, even though there are like, you know, I guess it wouldn't be like the best experience of university. It's really helpful down the line, especially when you're running a business. You know, and then for me personally, there were also a lot of classes because me personally, I'm a very laid back person. So if I don't have to do something, I wouldn't do it. That's just me. But you know, and then there's a lot of classes that you're put into without like an option. And you know, and that makes you like really sit down and be disciplined. Even if you're not, you have to be disciplined and really go to class and learn the material. And there were classes like organizational behavior where you learn about like really managing employees. It wasn't like a student favorite class, but you know, I really enjoyed it because I learned about how to manage employees with like positive, negative reinforcements. Because I wouldn't really like, you know, search this online on my own time because of who I am as a person. And then also like I'm taking a class called marketing and social networking right now. It's basically like on social media. And that's where, you know, we have to really like make a marketing plan for a company that's not even in like the clothing you know, industry or like the fashion industry. So it's really cool because like I get to really like, you know, get like my foot wet in different things. And so I definitely think like, so that's kind of how Laurier really supported my entrepreneurship, and then also like networking events. So that's also really important. So that's what I personally think. That's how Laurier really supported me.
Yeah, that's really great. It's good to see like how taking advantage of like the networking opportunities and stuff at your school can really help you get a foot in the door and be able to support you in your entrepreneurship. And I completely agree with what you had to say about time management. Like even just as a first year, learning how to manage my time and really just like get the most out of all my classes by putting in the work, I guess. I totally agree. And kind of relating to that, what would be like a day in the life for you? Like as a student balancing work and school, like just what would that look like generally?
So okay, with school, it's actually really tough to have a schedule, right? Because one week you could be really free, and then the next week you have like 4 assignments. So it's like it's really hard. But I guess like a typical day in the life of for me is that like I try to wake up early in the morning. I'm not really a morning person, but I try my best to wake up early. And instead of just getting straight into work, I take like an hour out and either go for a walk or work out or something like that. Like so it could like really refresh my mind for the day because um right now my day's like really packed all the way to like 12 o'clock at night. It's like packed to like the hour and minutes. So it's like I have to make sure that my like mind is clear and I'm not like stressing about anything. So that's what I do in the first hour. Right when that's done, it's because like I have so much energy then. So I try to do all my like physical labor stuff for Vibn. So whether it be like taking pictures, measuring, inventory management, so tagging products with like you know, like all these codes and stuff. So I try to do all the physical labor stuff around that time, and then it gets to like afternoon, and that's kind of when like all my energy like crashes. And then you know, and that's kind of when like I eat lunch and whatever. So now it's like I'm really tired. So I try, instead of doing like a lot of the physical labor stuff, I you know, start really like doing my schoolwork and like my assignments, because at that point I don't want to really like move around my house too much. And that's when I start, yeah, so I basically start like studying for any like maybe midterms or quizzes that I have, or exams, or like even assignments. I start doing that. And then like during the evening night, it's kind of when it's like quiet in my house. So I like again like sometimes I try to like, I'm still like working on this, but like personal life stuff. So like managing relationships, you know, with friends, family, all of that. I try to like take time out for that too. That was like something I was really struggling with, but I'll get into that later. Um, and then yeah, like really like doing stuff that isn't very labor intensive during night, again like school stuff that like, or creative stuff like working on a new logo or or revamping or like new features on your website, because that's also really important to like really look at your external environment because it's so fast paced. So I try to do that in the evening, nighttime. It's very quiet in my house. So that's kind of like the typical day in life. I know it's not like very interesting or anything like that, but this is like me, my typical day in the life.
No, I think that's like super interesting, especially like as a high school student. I definitely take inspiration from your hard work. Um, and I'm sure that a lot of your peers and even your teammates in your business, they probably also seek inspiration from you, being able to balance all of your ambitions and tasks and responsibilities. So I was wondering, how did you build your team and establish a culture within your team?
So, okay, I don't really have a full-time employee just right now because I'm still working. Sorry, I'm not working. I'm still in school, so I still have to balance all of that. And then I won't have enough time to really train this employee that would have full time. So right now it's just like, my brother helps me sometimes. My parents help me here and there. And then, but most importantly, like I have a team all over the world, sort of thing. So like I outsource I delegate a lot of my tasks that I can. So I have more time to focus on school. So basically, it's really hard to really instill like a culture because time differences, cultural differences in different parts of the world. But something I do is like I when I'm looking for employees, I always look for people that are startup oriented because I need people to be on their toes like at all times when they're working for me because it's very like I said, right? It's a fast moving environment, and you have to be like on go like every minute, every hour that you are working, whether it be 2 hours, 4 hours, or whatever it may be. And you have to have a passion for really building businesses, because I don't really look for, oh yeah, do you really love clothing, depending on what their role is, but you just really need to love like building businesses and wearing multiple hats if need be. But the culture I'm trying to instill is like adocracy, so like creativity, right? I really want to make sure creativity is there. I've already talked about that, but like innovation again that drives business, and like most importantly, like you have to be open-minded. Everyone on the team has to be open-minded because, including myself, sometimes I catch myself saying like this thing is the way I want to do it, but then if someone else has an opinion, I sometimes like kind of block that out. But if that's I'm still working on that, but I really that's what I'm trying to instill in my sort of like in my I'm going to instill that in my organization down the line. But yeah, open-mindedness is really important, especially when you're trying to scale and grow. And like if someone has a critique about something I'm trying to push for my business, like I'll have to make sure I really understand where they're coming from, and that really helped me grow to the point I'm at right now.
For sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Since the business world and especially like the fashion industry is so rapidly changing and evolving all the time. So being open-minded is really important to be able to help just like grow your business as a person as well. And then kind of going off of that, what would be like the most challenging thing and the most rewarding thing about being a business owner?
Okay, let me think about the challenges because there's a few actually that I want to talk about. But like the first thing would be definitely juggling like a social life with for me personally with Vibn and school. It's always been really tough because I catch myself working so many hours in a day where I just forget to talk to like my friends, my family, and it's a very like common like recurring thing where I really like had to stop and really think about how I could really, because I see it started taking like it started straining my personal relationships with my friends and family because of the stress and the amount of work that goes in, like the amount of hours is like insane. But something like that, really juggling a social life with your business and school is really tough, especially when you're trying to scale, because you have to have those days where you're just like you don't sleep enough hours and stuff like that. I'm all for sleeping, but like you have to. There's some days where you just don't get enough sleep. And like another thing would be like wearing multiple hats, like I talked about in the beginning. It's very tough. Like even though it's a very good thing to do, it's very tough in the beginning because like you have to handle your social media stuff. You have to handle sourcing your products. Like I'm talking about me personally for my business, but talk about sourcing your products. You got to deal with like hiring and training employees if that's where you're at. there's so many hats you have to wear, and like, you know, even with finances, doing budgeting and cash flow and all of that, it's like you're wearing multiple hats. You're looking at YouTube videos constantly, tutorials on how to do certain things. So that's really tough in the beginning. That's actually very tough in the beginning, because I remember when I started this in second year in 2019, like I wasn't doing like the best in school either, and I just added this whole other chunk on my plate, and I was just like, what do I like? How do I do all this, right? So yeah, and all of that, and also budgeting and your money management is also very important. Like you got to figure out exactly where you want to put your money and where it would be worth it, because at one point it's like you could put your money here, you could buy this, or you could improve this, right? It's like what do you do? And because you only have enough money to do one thing that you budgeted for that month or whatever. So that's also something, because for me personally, I'm so like passionate about what I do. It's like I want to do everything, right? And another thing I'm working on. So it's like I have to really know where I want to put my money, if I have a couple of options. So that's something that is challenging. I can't think of anything else right now, so I'll just move on to rewards. You know, the rewards is not money. It's definitely not money. It's the freedom. It's a creative freedom, and like freedom in general that you get. Like there's no one telling you to wake up at a certain time, do a certain thing at a certain time, be at the office, wear a certain like type of clothing, you know. And also creative freedom. There's no ceiling, and there's no like there's no walls around you. There's no barricades where you're like, okay, this is all you can do, and you can't do this stuff. And a lot of corporations are actually changing that now. But when I started, that was like a lot. That was what I realized where I was working at the time. Like it was really tough to be very creative at all times. And even if you are creative, you keep that to yourself, which is like I never really liked that too much. And then I think another thing that's rewarding is like self satisfaction. You grow this thing to this point, and you're like, okay, I did this, and it's like a sense of ownership. You know, taking a pause and really like taking all that in is like it's very rewarding for me personally. It's like, yeah, it's very self satisfying. So I think those two are like the rewards. And I don't want to talk about money, because money is not the reward. Trust me.
Nice. Yeah, I really like how you pointed out that money is not the reward. Um, and yeah, being a business owner is definitely a lot of work, but I think you're doing a good job from what you've shared with us so far. And I'm really, really curious to know. Um, so, knowing what you know today and having learned the lessons that you have learned, what would you have done differently with your startup?
One thing I would do is really research what I'm getting into, because I didn't do that. I wasn't really like planning on turning this into a business. It was more so of like a hobby, that like that's where it started off. But I think everyone should do their diligence, and before they get into any business, they like really research the environment and really understand everything about it. Because or not, you don't have to understand everything about it, but at least like the major things, because there's things like inventory management that I should have known from before. There's people that knew it from before, I didn't. So I had to really like, you know, I got like a like 100 200 pieces, and now I'm like, how do I keep track of all this? So now I have to look at YouTube videos. So I think something I would do is really research what you're getting into, like what you have to do, so you're at least you're prepared. And then also having like an Excel sheet. This is probably like a lot of people probably do it. I guess I just didn't do it. I didn't have an Excel sheet made with like all my profit, like your profit loss, your budgeting, your like all of that. All of that is really important. And you know, like the more money you have, or not the more money, sorry, the more data you have, the better. You know, it's all like a data game. Like the if you have more numbers in front of you, and you know exactly where your business is at a certain time, it's like the most like that's like your most important thing you have in my opinion. So I think creating an Excel sheet initially, and getting all of that down, at least the basic stuff, is very important. And then most importantly, communication. Like when you start, you're very indulged into this thing that you're doing. It's really important to communicate with like down the line when you get like some employees, and even like people that are helping you, because you get a point of view of your business from someone else's eyes, and that's like very important. And it also, I guess, shows them that you care, like for your employee or your help, because a lot of people get into this business with a partner. So communicating with your partner is very important. You get a different, like I said, a different point of view, and you show them that you care about their opinion as equally as you know your opinion. So I think that's yeah. I'm trying to think of other ones, but this is like all the lessons that are on my mind right now.
Yeah, those are really, really great pieces of advice. And just like from what you were saying about the Excel spreadsheets tying in with the financials and the inventory management. I think it's really cool because I know you said you were specializing mostly in marketing, but I think through this business, like just from what you said, it seems like you've really been able to learn about all the different areas and how they tie in together. Yeah, and then are there any resources such as apps, software, or platforms that you would recommend for someone else looking to create an entrepreneurship project?
Yeah, they're actually, well, okay. I'll actually talk about the main ones. So, um, when you enter in business, like key is organization, and so like the ones I use personally is like this thing called Todoist. You don't have to use it. You could use Notes, but I use Todoist. It kind of keeps me in track like of my to-do list for like for school and for business, and then also for like personal life, whether it's like running errands or you got to talk to people, all of that. um that's all, like that's what I use Todoist for, so that's really important. You could be like normal, you could also use Notes. Like Notes is also a really good app if you have an Apple product. And then another one I would say is Trello. Trello is like kind of, it helps you manage tasks between like people in my organization. So even if they're in different parts of the world, we all like I have all these all of them on this platform. I actually learned about this in second year when I was part of a club, so I started using it. Um, and basically what I have is my to-do list, another like an employee's or someone that's like a freelancer or whatever, their to-do list, and everyone else's, and then a done sort of column. So you could just drag your stuff in done when you're done with it. So it's just like, because there's times where like Black Friday comes up or like Valentine's sale that I just had, where it's a very pressured sort of like time where you're supposed to like figure everything out, and how are you going to run the sale, how are you going to promote it, how much budget you're going to allocate to it. So it's very hard to communicate with everyone in your organization at the time. So Trello is like really, really key to like, so you know exactly where everyone is, or with their to-do list. So that's very important for your organization. Social media is also very important because you need to like schedule all of your. So what I do right now is I schedule everything a week in advance. So because during the week I have all these classes, and I just don't want to really worry about scheduling things and like worrying about hashtag research right there. You know what I mean? So I kind of get into, so social media. For social media, I use Later. Later is like a scheduling software. I tried all these other things like Buffer. Buffer is really good too, but I personally use Later because I don't really post on too many social media platforms. It's like mainly it's Instagram and Facebook right now. So I use Later um, for that, for scheduling and hashtag research. And then for pictures, like for me personally, like to get everything organized in terms of like assets, like pictures, I use Dropbox. Dropbox really easy. Again, like I can get everyone from our organization onto this one platform, and they could just like see all the pictures that are there, if they're measured, what are done, what are not done, what needs to be deleted, and like not only pictures but like other assets too, like logos. Like if my graphic designer needs a logo, or like my animation artist needs a logo, whatever it is, they can just get it from there, all of like the creative assets I have. And then in terms of accounting, like keeping your numbers, again, like I said, numbers is like the most important thing for any business. It's like really knowing your numbers, really knowing your business and where it's at a certain point in time. I use QuickBooks. Started with like Excel. Excel is like also really good, but QuickBooks is really good when you're growing, because it really shows the health of your business at a certain time. So if you're making a loss, like it shows you that, and it shows you like a graph. It's You could do this on Excel as well, but it's a lot more work because you have to like code this in and like do macros and all of that. So QuickBooks is definitely something that's very helpful for accounting reasons. So these are all the ones I can think of. And then there's like very small ones, but these are like the main ones.
Wow, that's amazing. It's really cool how technology nowadays allows us to do so much and to, communicate with people all over the world. And I'll definitely try and apply some of your advice to my life as well. So I was also wondering, since there are many common myths about being an entrepreneur, have you discovered any to be false?
Okay, so before I get into this question, just to add on to what you said, it's actually like there's so many softwares being made on a daily basis. It's like I lack in this, but make sure to whoever's listening, like make sure that you're actually on your toes about different softwares that are coming up, because there's a lot of things that can make your task a lot efficient, like way more efficient, and like it could make a time like an hour task that takes an hour to like 10 minutes. And it's like that happened to me personally, so it's like always be on your toes about like different softwares that are coming up. And yeah, so there's going on to the next question. So common myths are like the most thing, like the biggest thing I hear is that, oh yeah, you're rich, like oh my god, you're, but that's not how it works. Entrepreneurs are not always rich, and especially in the first like early stages, they don't even pay themselves for like years. Like I've worked for startups where the owner didn't pay himself for like 3 years. So that's like a huge amount of time. For me, it took me a year of straight reinvesting, just reinvesting back into the business. Every single dollar I got went back into the business. So I only really started paying myself maybe like 6 months ago. So out of the 2 years that I've a little over the 2 years that I've been running this business. So like it's a misconception. Not all entrepreneurs are rich, and it takes a while to get to that part. So it's not a get rich quick scheme or anything like that. It's a lot of work, and yeah, you don't pay yourself for a while. So just something to keep in mind. Doesn't matter what business you're in. If you pay yourself, you can't scale. So another one is that entrepreneurs like start their business to just make money, and that's like not true. I kind of touched upon this. I said it before. It's more for like freedom and sense of ownership. Like I talked about, if you start with a purpose of just making money, you're not going to get too far, in my opinion. I don't know. Like I've definitely seen some businesses that had a sole, like a goal of just making money, and they've done decent. But like most businesses, like I've all out of like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and out of all of the people that I've listened to, like they all said it. They were like, if you start, your business for a sole reason of making money, it's not going to go too far. So make sure you have a passion for it. So that's actually really true. And then, it like another myth is that you need to invent the wheel to start a business. You don't need to. You don't need to come up with like some crazy product, and like you can just start off very like you could even take what someone else is like, as long as it's not patented. Like for me, like I resell clothes, and it's like so many people do it. So you could do that and add your own twist to it. Like I do that personally. Like I would look at like 10 different businesses, pick out the things that are really cool with them, and add my own twist to it, and then that's where I start. So you could start very basic and then just start improving over time. So that's all it really is. You don't need to invent the wheel. If you want to, like go right ahead. But it's a common misconception that you need to have some crazy idea or a crazy product to really start. You can always start with whatever you have and then improve along the way.
I totally agree. I feel like a lot of people probably would really love to start an entrepreneurship project, but they feel like their idea isn't like creative enough, even though there's a market for stuff. Even if it's like already out there, that doesn't mean you can't put your own spin on it, like you said. And as well, I totally agree what you said about having a passion about it and not just doing it for the money, because like you said, if you're passionate, you're probably going to be more driven to improve and like evolve with the market, which would probably help make anybody's business a lot more successful. And then finally, if you could only give one piece of advice to someone looking to start their own business, what would it be?
Can I give like more than one, or is it like one for sure?
No, as many as you'd like are
Okay.
welcome.
Okay, so I have like two that I could just think of. There's probably more. I just can't think of too many right now. But I'm gonna sound really like cheesy, or like it's gonna be very cliche, but you have to play the game for the game, not the points. Like when LeBron started playing, he didn't play because he thought he's gonna land $1 billion deal with Nike. He thought, because he started playing because he loved basketball and he loved the game, right? So there's gonna be there's gonna be like times there was times with me where I like honestly thought I should like I couldn't do it because at the end, like I said, right in the beginning, it was very like I didn't start because I loved vintage from day one. I kind of got into it, and I started to make a love for it after, like slowly, right? And there's also days where you're gonna be working like crazy amount of hours, and I'm not exaggerating, but there's days where you work like 10 hours. Like for me personally, but because for my business, it's very labor intensive, and there's so many things, so many steps that every single item goes through, from product acquisition to like putting it online for sale. So there's 10 hour work days constantly for the week. Like this summer, like this past summer, I was working on like so many things at once, so many projects that it was like 10-hour days every day. And you know, that's the point where it really breaks the person. And it's like, can I really do this? That's where the passion thing really comes in. You have to really play the game for the game, not the points. You should definitely get your hands wet in every aspect of the business. So the reason I say this is you don't have to be an expert in everything. Like, I don't expect you to be like, you know, if you're working for me, or sorry, for myself, I didn't expect myself to be like the best person on Photoshop, right? Or the best person for animations or whatever it was. But I definitely like dabbled, like, you know, I kind of like tested everything out, because it really helps you, you know, first of all, really gain an appreciation for it. You know, like there's a lot of things that people do, and you're just like, oh, like this is not too tough, but until you really do it and you're like, wow, this actually takes a while to really learn. So then you gain an appreciation for it. You know, even for inventory management, for finance, I'm not even a finance student, but really learning like everything about Excel and everything like that was a learning experience, and a learning curve. So I definitely gained an appreciation for it. Like right now, I don't handle my ads and stuff anymore. I used to for like the longest time, but just recently I kind of hired a marketing firm to really take that over for me. But it's like, but now I have a real appreciation for it. And if someone else was to tell me the price they quoted me in the like initially, I would just say no, outright no. But now that I've like done it myself and I really know the amount of work that goes into like really developing a campaign and the thinking that goes behind it, the numbers that go behind it, you know, now I gain appreciation for it. And another thing is that no one can really fool you. There's a lot of times where people could be like, oh yeah, this is gonna take 10 hours, so like $100, right? And you're gonna be like, no way, or you might just pay it off, right? And then until when you do it yourself, you know that it took you 1 hour. So why is an expert asking for 10 hours, right? So it's a lot of times where people could try to like you know, use you for monetization reasons, or like just try to like squeeze you for as much money as they can. So it's really important to dabble into every aspect of your business. And then it also helps in like training the employees. Like the reason I'm still taking pitches to this day is because I'm really trying to understand the most efficient way to take it and the best way to do it with lighting and everything like that. So like when I do hire an employee, training is like seamless. So like I don't have to worry about, you know, really figuring something out, or like how do I teach someone something that I've never experienced myself. So it's definitely like, yeah, like it's very important. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but it's very important to at least try everything out. So that's definitely another piece of advice I would give.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we learn our most crucial lessons through firsthand experience and also through participation. So I think that's a really great advice and a good reminder for us all too. But yeah, so that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, we really loved having you. I think you gave some great advice and insight. And yeah, I just wanted to touch on what you were saying, really dipping your toes into every aspect of the business. I think that would make you a lot more well-rounded, even if you're not going into that specific area, just having that knowledge would be really great. So make sure you check out Vibn Vintage.
Yeah, so you can check out Vibn Vintage on Instagram at VIBN, just 4 letters. And then on Facebook, it's Vibn Vintage. Twitter, VIBN again, 4 letters. I'm still working on it, not a lot of content there, but yeah, and then TikTok as well is Vibn Vintage.
And if you liked our conversation, be sure to check us out on YouTube for the video version of today's interview. And make sure you leave a like or a comment with any feedback or requests for future topics.
And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to Leaders Fluent, our podcast, and leave a 5-star review. And be sure to stick around and connect with us at Leaders Fluent on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And stay tuned for the next episode.
And always remember,
leaders are made,
not born.
All right. Thank you so much. Hey, did you like this video? If so, click the subscribe button down below.
And make sure you click the notification bell to get updates each time we post. And remember, you can listen to the entire episode on 8 different platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Check out the links down below.
Bye.
Bye.